Welcome back, fantasy football fans. This is Fantasy Football in 5 coming at you once again. We are live here on StreamYard again, and also going to be live on YouTube. We're going to be posting this directly to our YouTube channel. So for those of you that are following us on YouTube or on Twitter, make sure to go ahead and hit up our YouTube channel and vice versa. But first things first, we're going to actually be talking here. We're going to replace our podcast this week with this live StreamYard because we wanted to do something fun and exciting here. We're going to do a live mock draft for you guys. We're going to do head-to-head, Parker versus me. We're going to be on two different ends of the draft board, and we're going to just see how this thing plays out. And also to give you guys a little bit of an in-depth look at two different draft spots and what you guys should do if you have one of these draft spots. So I'm going to first throw this thing over to Parker to explain how the draft setup is and what types of, if there's flex, if there's super flex and all that good jazz. So I'm going to throw it over to him first, and then we'll go ahead and start this thing out.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor. So this is going to be your standard redraft league, no super flex, no tight end premium, although that's a scoring setting, which you can't really do in a mock, but that just adds a little bit more value to your team, and more points makes more fun. So our format is going to be pretty simple: one quarterback, two running back, two receiver, one tight end, two flex spots, the kicker, the defenses, and then 6 bench rounds. Taylor, this is actually going to be a sort of a warm-up for our listener league this year. Same format that we're going to roll with, 16 rounds. So there's a lot of players to be drafted, lots of depth all over the place here.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that listener league and also for the dynasty that we're going to be doing. I'm very excited. A lot of drafts coming up for us in the upcoming couple of weeks. And also, we're going to have our rankings out here soon. So make sure to keep tuned for that. But I think we're ready to go to start this thing up. I will be drafting from spot number 3, and Parker, you'll be drafting from spot number 10.
Yep, that is correct. Just to try to get some different perspectives, we're going to give you a little bit of insight into our own draft strategy, maybe some players you're going to want to maybe steal later in the draft, but we'll get to that while we go. So Taylor, I'm going to start the draft. It says an hour per pick, but we're not going to take that long, obviously. So you're on the clock here.
I don't know. I think I'm good for this whole hour. It might take me that long, but no. All right. Looking at this, I'm shocked, thoroughly shocked. This is why I like Sleeper, actually, because Christian McCaffrey didn't go number 1 overall. It was Dalvin Cook. I like the fact that it's not always, exactly who's going to be picked in each spot with the computer. I like that they've switched things up. So here at number 3, though, I think obviously I got to go running back here, especially considering how heavy the running backs are at the top and then how much of a drop off there is. So when we're looking at running backs, you got Alvin Kamara, you got Derrick Henry, Saquon, and Jonathan Taylor on this board. Out of those guys, I think the 2 guys that I'm really considering here are Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Saquon. Those are 2 or 3 guys, I should say. For me, I'm going to probably hold off on Saquon if I have a top 3 pick, just because I'm a little hesitant on him, injuries and stuff like that. And considering the fact that Alvin Kamara is going to get a lot of work now that Michael Thomas is out in that first couple of weeks, I think I'm actually going to go him over Derrick Henry in this spot, simply because of the fact that Alvin Kamara gets so much work out of the backfield as well.
Yeah, Taylor, that's a good selection there. And I expect a huge run on running backs, which looks like this is what we're getting. So I have a tough choice to make here at the 110. Now, our redraft listener league draft will not be tight end premium. We had debated about it, so that makes me less inclined to take a guy like Travis Kelce here. But there's a guy that I adore at this spot. I would adore him anywhere after pick 8, probably, and that is Austin Ekeler of the Los Angeles Chargers. I just love him this year, and I think he has the RB1 potential. I think Justin Herbert will just explode this season. He is my dark horse for MVP. It's Justin Herbert this year. And, okay, let me go back. The last time I said I got a dark horse for MVP, it was Mitch Trubisky. So,
oh, gosh.
I say that. I take it back. My dark horse is going to be, Lamar Jackson. I hope the Ravens just suck this year. Anyways. I'm going to take Austin Ekeler here. I don't think this is a reach either. His ADP is slowly but surely climbing. It says 14.7 right here, but I've seen him as high as 11. So I'm not afraid to take him in the first round at all, especially considering I think he has the RB1 potential.
Yeah, I really like the Austin Eckler pick. He's one of my favorite running backs if I have a latter half of the draft pick, because he is going to put up a lot of numbers, especially in PPR formats, and he really has no one to take carries away from him.
No, he really doesn't. I'm not expecting Justin Jackson or Joshua Kelly to do much of anything this season. So as long as Eckler stays healthy, he is the guy out there in Los Angeles. But on the turnaround, it is my turn again. And this is a spot where you can go one of two directions. And for me, it's either running back or receiver. I have great options at receiver. If I make this a little bigger, I've got guys like DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Brown. And if I wanted to go running back, I still have plenty of great options. I don't like Joe Mixon. No. I got Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift. I mean, there's a whole host of guys here that I would take. And the wide receiver drop-off is not as bad as the running back drop-off. The running back drop-off is steep. And it gets steep after, I don't know, Chris Carson, honestly. I think that's this whole range here. Chris Carson, and then after him, David Montgomery, Darrell Henderson, Travis Etienne. Those are guys that I just don't want on my team as my second running back. And I'm always afraid that I don't know if they're going to be there by the next time I pick. So I would love to go DeAndre Hopkins here, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to wait on receiver. I'm going to go running back here, and I love him. And I haven't taken him a whole lot of drafts just because I haven't been in the right position to take him. But I'm going to grab Najee Harris here.
Not shocking that the Steelers fan takes the Steelers running back. I'm excited here, though, because I have been waiting and looking to make sure one of these guys stays on the board for me, because I was a little concerned. I wasn't sure what I was going to do if they all went off the board. But, gosh. Oh, now this is actually tough. But I think at the end of the day, like you said, running back is like there's a guy at wide receiver that I love, Justin Jefferson.
I know Justin Jefferson's on the board. Come on, Taylor, be a homer.
But I'm not going to be a homer like Parker here. You see, I'm going to use my fantasy football mind here and realize there's such a steep drop off at the running back position that if I skip here, who knows what I'm going to end up with? Maybe a guy like Chris Carson will still be available, maybe, but that's a big if. Okay,
I wouldn't want to take that chance.
I'm going to go ahead and grab my second running back here. A lot of people like J.K. Dobbins this year. On J.K. Dobbins, okay, and that all the people that say that.
Offense.
So, but in all seriousness, I want to get a guy who I can count on, who's going to be probably the staple back in his offense, hands down. For me, believe it or not, that guy that I'm going with here, thought about maybe, Antonio Gibson. There's Clyde Edwards-Helaire that's there. I'm going to go DeAndre Swift, though. I love what he has coming out of the backfield, and he's got nothing out there in that Detroit offense that's going to take carries, or not only carries, but also
touches in general.
Touches, and yes, exactly. You got essentially TJ Hawkinson, and that is it out there. So really, he's going to get a lot of action this year. As long as he can stay healthy, which I'm willing to bet that he probably will this year, I'm willing to snag him here at the end of the second round.
Taylor, that's an excellent pick. And
baby.
This is the scenario that I thought might happen, actually.
I was hoping that this might happen. That's why I took DeAndre Swift. I was hoping that Antonio Gibson might fall to me, and he did. But now it's a question of, do I wait and really wait for a receiver? Because it's going to be a long wait for my number one receiver.
It will be a long wait. But
receiver is so deep this year.
It's very deep.
I think that it is worth it. I know this is crazy for me to say, but I think it's worth it to get 3 top-notch running backs. If you have the opportunity to do so, you will have pretty much solidified yourself at running back for the rest of the draft. You might snag a guy later in the latter half of the draft, but really from here on out, I don't have to worry about running back if I get a running back here. And I think that if I do, that guy's clearly going to be Antonio Gibson for me.
Yeah. And, when you can get a guaranteed 250 points out of a guy, I would take those guaranteed 250 points right now than pretty much anywhere else. And Antonio Gibson has, yeah, JD McKissick is there, and JD McKissick got a lot of work. He was great as a PPR back last year, but Antonio Gibson's on a different level.
Yeah, not only that, but it's clear that they want to move forward with Antonio Gibson. I don't think that they would have let Adrian Peterson go a couple of or last season of the season before, excuse me, if
Mhm.
they didn't feel like Antonio Gibson was going to be able to be the guy in the future. I don't think they would have let that guy go because Adrian Peterson, while he didn't perform phenomenally well for the Lions when he left there, at the end of the day, he was still a viable option who was cheap for him, so they could have
Mhm.
went that route. But they decided to go young with Antonio Gibson, believe in him. And I don't think they're going to give up on that belief because he showed a lot of promise last year. I'm going to snag him with my third pick.
Yeah, and that's a great pick because the next running backs to come around, they might give you a 200-point ceiling, whereas Justin Jefferson, Antonio Gibson gives you a 225-point floor. So it's definitely worth it to get those high point running backs early and often. It pays off. But here I am on the board, uh, and my favorite wide receiver is available.
Oh, who's your
Oh,
favorite wide receiver, Parker?
that would be Mr. Oh, this is tough actually. This is very tough. I I've stacked the LA Chargers offense everywhere I can. Best ball, dynasty, you super flex, you name it. I have an LA Charger player on every roster I own. And it's really tough right now because Taylor, Chris Carson's still on the board. Chris Carson is a
Mm.
fantastic running back with little competition behind him. Um, but I think at this point, I might be complacent to wait on a running back here and grab a receiver. And I'm going to do that now. But the choice for me is now between Keenan Allen and Scary Terry. Uh, Keenan Allen, I think he has the wide receiver one potential, just like Austin Eckler does. And I don't say that about a whole lot of guys unless it's true. And I think this is true. I think this whole Chargers offense is going to put up numbers like we saw the Chiefs did in 2018 when Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns. That's
Well,
it.
I also remember back in the day when Keenan Allen first came onto the scene, or at least a couple of years, or maybe the first few years after he came onto the scene with Philip Rivers. That was back when Philip Rivers was still a viable quarterback and someone they could count on. And look at the numbers he put up during those seasons. He put up 100 plus catch seasons year after year, and it didn't matter. He led the league in receiving. I remember at least a season or two before he started getting hit with those injuries really hard. But
Mhm.
recently, he's actually been pretty healthy, which was a big knock on him for quite a few seasons in a row. But recently, he's kind of shook off that injury bug and been able to stay healthy. And I think that Keenan Allen has finally, ever since Philip Rivers in the first couple of years of Keenan Allen's career, he finally has another good quarterback that he can rely on.
Yeah, if you take a look at Keenan Allen's numbers throughout the past couple seasons, since 2017, he hasn't finished with less than 240 points in a season, and he's peaked at 280 points. And even as a rookie, he came in with PPR 217 points, so he's productive. Yeah, he missed a couple of seasons, or I missed nearly the full 2016 season due to injury, but I think that's gone and it's in the past. But if you look at a guy like Scary Terry, all he's done in his career is produce, and he's gotten better. And Fitzmagic might be the best quarterback that he's ever had. And truthfully, I think Herbert and Fitz are going to throw the ball as equally in terms of um, uh, passes thrown, but I don't know whether to take Keenan Allen or McLaurin here. Um, but for the simple fact of the matter, I'm going to go with Keenan Allen. I'm going to get the stack rolling here. All right, so I've got two Chargers, and Najee Harris. So I'm back on the clock here at the 4:03. Chris Carson was just taken, kind of sniped. He came back around. He was mine. However, I think I'm still going to wait on running back. I think I'm going to go back to the receiver well. Taylor, this is a tough because I think we're at a different wide receiver tier here.
Yeah, it kind of falls off after after Scary Terry and Keenan Allen and those guys. There's kind of like a little bit of a gap. Okay. I know a lot of people are big on Amari Cooper. Me personally, I've never been a big fan of Amari Cooper ever since he left the Raiders. So other than Amari Cooper, there's kind of a big drop off, after him. I mean, Mike Evans is on the board and stuff. He'll put up nice numbers, but there is a big drop off after there's like a little tier where after that tier, it's kind of like a dead zone for the receivers, at least for like about probably a full
20 or 15 points,
Yeah.
So it's interesting here where they have Darrell Henderson re-ranked after Cam Akers' injury, because he shot up to the 44th overall player, which I just don't agree with. Taylor, do you think Henderson's too high?
I've always hated Darrell Henderson, and I always will hate Darrell Henderson because Darrell Henderson sucks balls. All right, he's not good. He is a bad running back. He is bad at the game of football. Okay, in terms of comparing him to the other starting running backs in the NFL, he's not good. You can't rely on the guy. Okay, especially for fantasy football purposes. Yeah, sure, he might have one game the entire season where he has 20 fantasy points, but he'll have 6 to 8 games where he will barely break 6 fantasy points. So I think those 6 or 8 games might kill you versus the one game where he has, 25, 30 fantasy points.
Yeah, I just haven't been able to rely on him. And I haven't had him on a whole lot of rosters either.
And not only that, but if you look at what Sean McVay has done throughout the time that he's taken over the Rams, when it comes to outside of Todd Gurley, the first season or two, outside of that, really he hasn't had a workhorse running back. He's been a running back by committee. Yep. When he doesn't have a guy that he can just trust and hand the football off to 100 billion times, then he's a running back by committee guy. He believes in that, and I think that's what you're going to see from the Rams this year.
Hey, right, so I'm going to avoid running back, and I'm actually going to go with Mike Evans here. I have Evans one spot higher in my rankings than Chris Godwin, and Evans is the model of consistency. I'm going to pull up his sort of player chart right now if I can. I'll figure it out eventually. Okay, here we go. So if you take a look at his numbers, okay, these are the yardage stats for Mike Evans over the past, his entire career. He hasn't had less than 1,000 yards, and his career low in touchdowns was 3 way back in 2015.
That was the year we drafted him.
Yeah. 3 times he's had over double-digit touchdowns, 12 or more in his career, and he consistently averages, 120 plus targets. He had only 109 last year. I think that number could rise, actually. I think Tom Brady passes a little bit more this year. So I like my Mike Evans pick here. He's very consistent, one of the most consistent receivers in the game. But Taylor, you are on the clock now.
Now, I'm in a tough spot here. I think that I know where I want to go in terms of what position. I got running back taken care of. I don't have to worry about that. Tight ends, for me, after the first 3 guys go off the board, it's kind of useless at that point. So the question becomes, what do you do here? Do you take a guy like a wide receiver who you can count on week in and week out? I think I do, because there are a couple of guys here that are on the board that fit that mold. Chris Godwin, the opposite of Mike Evans there. Mm-hmm. I think that Chris Godwin has great potential. He was the best Buccaneers receiver last year, I think. Yep. He had the best connection with Tom Brady, surprisingly, over a guy like Mike Evans. And then, you add in the fact that, he's got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time throwing him the football. It kind of helps.
Yeah, a little bit.
But then I look at a guy like, not to be a homer or anything, but I look at a guy like Adam Thielen, and he gets so many catches and so many opportunities in a game. He is part of that game plan. Whereas Chris Godwin is more of a, if I'm not open, they are not going to throw me the football. Whereas if Adam Thielen's not open, they still will throw him the football because he is just that good. And he is also very consistent with his ability to stay on the field. He rarely gets injured. I think that last year was kind of a little bit of an anomaly towards the latter half of the season. But outside of that, like, he puts up a lot of numbers. And so I like Adam Thielen as well. But I think for this specific situation, I think that I'm actually going to go with Chris Godwin here. And I think that the reason is because I'm going to maybe sit here and see if I can get Adam Thielen on the turnaround or someone else. Just because I think Chris Godwin, with the quarterback play that he's going to get, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get with Kirk Cousins week in and week out. And with it being a run-heavy, really offense, I'm going to go and put my bet on Chris Godwin over Adam Thielen.
Yeah, Taylor, I think that's a really sound strategy that you're giving out here. And look at that. Adam Thielen's still on the board.
Adam Thielen is still on the board, but there's also another guy that's still on the board. Now the question is, do I do it? Now I could do it just to mess with my co-host here, all right? Because there's a guy that it's a position I hate drafting, especially early, but Parker here likes to draft these guys pretty early, and I don't know why. Oh, is he starting to see where I'm going there?
You know what? I think you should draft Mark Andrews.
Oh, you caught me. But no, I know that Parker likes to go and draft his tight end and TJ Hawkinson in round number 5. And this is round number 5, and TJ Hawkinson is on the board. But for me personally, I like to wait on tight ends. So I'm going to go ahead and draft myself a top-notch receiver like an Adam Thielen, I think, and make sure I solidify myself those, close to 100 grabs. And also, by the way, Adam Thielen led the NFL in touchdowns through the first half of the season. I'll take that.
Yeah. So my thing here is that I just like the value of TJ Hawkinson in the 5th. Now he's available for me to take. But my guy at tight end this year, and I think it's Taylor and I's guy too, is Robert Tonyan, and his season got saved yesterday with Aaron Rodgers returning to the facility. I know Taylor and I have him in our Scott Fish Bowl Satellite League. We just grabbed him in our Warrior Bowl League. So we have shares of Tonyan in important places. But the value of TJ Hawkinson in the 5th round really intrigues me. Simply for the matter that other than DeAndre Swift, Taylor, like you said, who is Jared Goff going to throw the football to?
Not only that, but we have seen Jared Goff be able to throw to his tight ends. You look at Gerald Everett, you look at Tyler Higbee. Now, they didn't put up great numbers while he was there as a Ram, but that's because he had so many mouths to push the football to. Whereas now that he doesn't have as many mouths, I think that he's going to realize that he can rely on TJ Hawkinson as one of the dump-off options alongside DeAndre Swift, that Hawkinson's probably going to have a good opportunity to put up probably tight end, top 3 or 4 tight end numbers again this season. I know last season he was really close to that top 5 tight end threshold, and I think he could mimic that again this season. But I'm going to take a real quick break so I can go grab some water and grab myself some food as well. So Parker, take it away. I know you got another pick coming up after this one.
Yeah, so if we're taking a look at TJ Hawkinson right here, he's really just gotten better throughout his 2 seasons in the NFL. He only played 12 games in 2019. Played all 16 last year and had career highs in everything, So he finished as PPR and overall tight end 5, which is pretty much where he was drafted. He was drafted at 5. He maintained his value really well, which is really what you're looking for. And especially at the tight end position, it is nearly impossible for a guy outside the top 3 to retain with their value where they were drafted. And even with Matt Stafford being out for a decent part of the season last year, TJ Hawkinson was able to maintain that value. And I don't know if I could wait. I think Team 11 would scoop him up with their next selection. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my guy, TJ Hawkinson, here in the 5th because I think he is the last of the good tight ends we have here. I like Robert Tonyan. I like Logan Thomas, but for me, it's Hawkinson in the 5th all day long. All right. Oh, my Lord. Well, I'm just going to scream. Well, I lost my stack here with Herbert. Herbert's gone. He was going to be my next selection. So I need to sort of reroute my thought process here. And you know what? I'm just going to start waiting at quarterback. So I'm going to go back to running back, see what's available. We have not a huge fan of many of these guys here. So I would be inclined to wait a little bit more. But one guy that I think could surprise people is Javonte Williams and Mike Davis. Mike Davis has no competition. Javonte Williams sort of in that timeshare with Melvin Gordon. If I want to look at running back, wide receiver, I could go one of my favorite guys here in Deontay Johnson. But the value of a receiver is so great that I'm going to wait. I'm going to go with a running back I don't usually go with here. Excuse me. I'm actually going to go with Javonte Williams. He's a rookie that I'm willing to take a chance on because I think Melvin Gordon could get dealt. Truthfully, I think Melvin Gordon could get dealt. And, you know what? This is very tough. I don't think Mike Davis is the guy. And this makes me inclined to maybe just continue to wait on running back. I could go receiver here.
I see you did snag TJ Hawkinson on your last pick.
Yep. And then I got sniped. Well, not sniped necessarily, but Team 12 took Justin Herbert right in front of my face. So, all right. I'm going to be another homer here. I'm actually going to go with Deontay Johnson.
Ooh.
Not something I typically do, but I think I can play my cards right and wait on my third running back. So I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson, PPR machine. Whether or not you like his drops, he puts up numbers. So, Taylor, it's back to you at the 6'10". Lots of receivers going here in this round. What are you going to do?
You know, there are a lot of receivers that are going off the board here, but there's another guy who, all I'm saying is, he's on the board. It pains me to possibly do this because it makes me want to just barf. But the question is, obviously I got my running back situation pretty well secured, so I don't have to worry about that. I could use some more receiver help. So you look at the receivers that are available. You got Juju, all right? And then you got DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton. I love myself some Cortland Sutton and DJ Chark. You know that. I'm big believers in both of those receivers. And you got just a couple of young guys here with Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Claypool. I'm drawing a blank on his first name. Chase Claypool. Yeah, a lot of Pittsburgh receivers here. And I'm not a huge fan of the Pittsburgh offense this year, so I don't really like that whole situation. Outside of Najee Harris, I think Najee Harris will have a good year. But outside of that, I'm a little hesitant to go receiver here, believe it or not, which is weird because I love so many receivers. So it makes me wonder, where should I go? I don't like the tight ends that are available right now. Obviously, after TJ Hawkinson, I like to just sit there and wait. So I look at the quarterbacks that are available, right? I'm not one to draft quarterbacks very early. 6 is pretty early for me. Parker, we just did a mock draft recently where I didn't draft a quarterback until round, 15?
I think it's more forgot to take one instead of didn't draft one.
No, I didn't draft one because I kept getting sniped everywhere that I was trying to go.
I do remember that. Yeah, that was an unfortunate draft for you.
Yeah, well, actually kind of worked out in a way, but I do like a quarterback that's on the board because he ended up QB1 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who this is?
I think you're going to go with Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, it pains me to do it because as a Vikings fan, it just makes me want to vomit.
Blasphemy.
But at least the way I see it is if Aaron Rodgers has a good game, my fantasy team has a good game. If Aaron Rodgers has a bad game, the Packers had a bad game. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
So that's what I like to do in fantasy football. So I'm going to go ahead and grab myself Aaron Rodgers here. It's one of the possibilities of a QB1 season right there, and a guy that you didn't have to get in the first or the first 3 or 4 rounds. And there's still QB1 possibility there. So I like that from him. And then I sit here and I look at the available running backs. I don't really necessarily need one. I could grab a guy, someone to finish out the running backs, but I also look at receivers, and there's a guy that I said that I really like, and I still believe in him, and I think that I'm going to go ahead and snag him here, believe it or not. The wide receiver, do you know who I'm going for here, Parker?
It's got to be Courtland Sutton.
It is Courtland Sutton. I'm going to snag Courtland Sutton here. He has a nice situation. I believed him last year, drafted him. He got hurt in the first quarter of the first game. It made me so I was so happy that Courtland Sutton was on my team, and then to have him go out, I didn't even get a full game out of him. It really sucked, but I think Courtland Sutton can bounce back this year, stay healthy, and it was just an unfortunate situation when he tore his ACL. It was really, at the end of the day, it was something like that. You can't expect something like that to happen again and again, So I think that for me, I believe in Courtland Sutton. I believe in his ability. And then on top of that, he's got a possibility for a new quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, who came into the building. So I think Teddy Bridgewater is only going to help his case. So I really think that Courtland Sutton is going to be a good addition to this squad, and a nice third receiver for me behind the big two of Chris Godwin and Adam Thielen.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect pick for you here. And your team's looking pretty even right now, actually. I'm very impressed with how it's shaping up. So, darn, my man Rojo got taken a couple picks. Here's where I was going next. I love me some Ronald Jones this year. I think Leonard Fournette just isn't it for the Bucs. I think it's Rojo this season. So if you're trying to decide between the two, go Rojo.
I've been on the board of Rojo. I kind of got Parker. I kind of got you a little bit on board towards the end of last season, actually. I know you got playoff Lenny and everything, but I was talking during the offseason to him, and I was like, hey, at the end of the day, who's going to be around, 3 years down the line? Is it going to be playoff Lenny? Probably not. It's probably going to be Ronald Jones, who, in my opinion, is probably the guy they're going to look for to stick around in the building if they're going to re-sign any of those running backs.
Right. He's young and entering his third year at only 23. He's got a lot of life in the legs, and he's just been getting, better each season. So I think next year is really going to be Ronald Jones' year, because Fournette only came back on a 1-year deal. So I am on the clock, however, and I could use a running back here. Well, the question is, where do I go? And I have a couple of options here. It's going to be between Kenyon Drake and James Conner. And
I got you on board on both of these guys this offseason.
Yeah, and I got to lend my credit here to Taylor, more so to Kenyon Drake than James Conner. I think when we did that show with Clinic Cap, he sort of led us on to James Conner being a great value for his ADP. And I've been on board since. So, Clinic, if you're out there listening, kudos to you. You've won me over. Even though as a Steelers fan, I liked James Conner. But, God, it was miserable inside the 5-yard line last year. So, I'm going to give him a redemption shot this year. I'm going to probably take him a little bit too high according to his ADP, but I don't want him taken. So I'm going to grab James Conner here. And then I'm glad I did, because Kenyon Drake and Raheem Mostert were also taken as running backs there. So possibly avoided a mishap from my team, but I need a quarterback here. And you know what? I don't know if I'm going to wait or not. Looks like a couple teams still need a quarterback. So you know what? I think I'm just going to go quarterback here, get it out of the way. And I know this might surprise some people, but I have a certain quarterback one spot higher. I'm looking at 2 quarterbacks here, Taylor. Do you know who I'm looking at?
I have a sneaking suspicion you're looking at Joe Burrow as one of them. And assuming they're the ones on the screen right now, are they? Just to make sure that both of them are on the screen right now?
Yes, they are.
I think it's going to be Joe Burrow and Tom Brady.
Now, who do you think I have ranked higher?
If I had to take a guess, knowing you, I actually think that you have. I think, well, you've been talking up Tom Brady a lot. I think you have Tom Brady one spot higher than Joe Burrow just because you like that offense and you think they're going to pass the ball more, which means Tom Brady's going to score more fantasy points.
I do. Tom Brady, as much as I hate to say it, he's a great value in fantasy football this year. Now, some people might the 8th round is as high as I would take him. I've seen him go earlier, and I wouldn't go much earlier than the 8th round. But I think Tom Brady, his 8th round value will stand. I think he could shoot out the boards. He's, I don't know, like the 12th, not maybe 12th quarterback, like maybe the 8th or 10th quarterback off the board right now. And think he can finish higher than that. So I'm going to go with Tampa Tom here. Pair him up with Mike Evans. All right, we are over to you. Only one other quarterback was taken in that stretch of about 6 picks, and that was Trevor Lawrence, #1 overall pick this year. So, Taylor, both of us have big-time veteran quarterbacks on our squads. You are on the clock here in the 8th round. What are you eyeballing?
So, obviously, I got quarterback taken care of, so I don't really have to worry about that situation. I don't have a tight end yet. So, you're looking at the tight ends that are available. There are a couple of guys that I could draft, and I don't think I necessarily need to get a tight end right now because the two teams that were ahead of me, they both drafted tight ends with their second overall selections with George Kittle and Darren Waller. So I don't need to go tight end here. I can get one probably with my next selection if I need to.
Yep. Yeah, that's something really to pay attention to as well. If you see you have a team need, like quarterback, for example, and the teams ahead of you have already drafted a quarterback and you're on your turn, just wait. Chances are they're not going to go back-to-back quarterbacks or any other position that doesn't have a whole lot of starters. Tight end is a great example. Defense, kicker, you name it, but primarily tight end and quarterback are great examples of that.
For sure. I'm going to jump in here and I've decided what position I want to go for. So I looked at the running backs available, and while there's a guy at the top of the board, Michael Carter, a young rookie that I like. But me personally, I don't think that Michael Carter necessarily is worth of a top 8 draft pick on my team. So I'm not going to snag him yet. There are a couple other running backs down the board that I could possibly see as a 4th running back on my team because I don't necessarily need them to start. They're probably just going to be in case of an injury. Yep. And then looking at the wide receivers, though, that are on the board. Obviously, I got quarterback taken care of, tight end I can wait on. So looking at the receivers, that leaves receivers, and I absolutely love one of these receivers, 2 of these receivers, actually, that are currently on the board. Well, 3 of them, actually. But believe it or not, I have one out of those 3 that are just a step above the rest of them, okay? Do you know which 3 I'm looking at? There are 3 of them on their screen right now.
Tyler Boyd, Rashad Bateman, and Curtis Samuel.
Good guess, but no. It's actually Rashad Bateman, Corey Davis, and Curtis Samuel. Those are the 3 that I like. I do like Tyler Boyd, but I think that I'm a little unsure what his season is going to look like. So looking at these other 3, though, you have a possibility to have a lot of points from all these guys. But for me personally, one of these guys steps out and above the rest because he has wide receiver 1 potential on his team. Do you know which one that is?
I'm going with the former Minnesota Golden Gopher, Rashad Bateman.
That's right. Rashad Bateman is probably going to be the leading receiver on that team. And even though they may not pass the ball that much, he has won over the coaches I've been reading recently, and he is probably primed to have a huge impact even at the beginning of the season. So I expect Rashad Bateman to be what I thought Tyler Johnson could be last season, which I was a little unfortunate. He was just kind of buried on the depth chart.
Still make great plays.
He did make great plays. That's true. But I think that Rashad Bateman could be what I really wish that Tyler Johnson had the opportunity to be. So I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman here because I absolutely love his ability to catch the football in tight windows. And also he's one of the smartest football players that I've seen recently coming out of the draft. So I think he's one of the most pro-ready guys. I think he's going to have a better season than Jamar Chase. Mark it right now. He's going to be your rookie 1 receiver.
Very nice. Hot takes here. Hot takes only. get your hot takes. All right, Taylor. So, Rashad Bateman, you took your guy, and I know that we've taken him in a bunch of other places too. So, no, we have no shame in drafting Rashad Bateman this year. Got lots of shares of him.
For
But
sure. I definitely believe in him. I like his opportunity this year because that's another thing. A lot of the receivers that were on the Baltimore Ravens roster last season are no longer there. So, they've
yeah,
kind of
big change
moved
there.
in new people outside of Marquise Brown. It's all a whole set of new faces right now. So I think that if anything, having a rookie come in and have the essentially level playing field to all these other guys in terms of learning the playbook and everything like that, I think he's got a good shot. But moving on from wide receiver here, I got to figure out what am I going to do now? Do I take a tight end, Parker? Do I wait another round for tight end? Now the team after me also does not have a tight end yet, or a quarterback for that matter. And then there's another team that also doesn't have a quarterback or tight end. And then there's one more team. So essentially three teams that don't have tight ends up to this point. So the question becomes, do I go ahead and be one of those teams that just snags a tight end right now, or do I feel confident enough to wait? Because there are 3 tight ends that I like that are on the board right now. So I think with that in mind, I might take the chance and wait. I really do think I might do that. I know that these guys are all highly coveted at their position, but at the end of the day, I think that it might be worth it for me to snag someone that I can rely on and really bolster and make one of my positions just that much better. And so I'm going to go ahead and just solidify my wide receiver core here, believe it or not.
Interesting.
And pretty much round out my receiver core because I've noticed recently, in most seasons, I like a lot of later round receivers, guys that I believe in. This year, not as much. It's kind of weird. I like a lot of the mid-round guys versus the later round guys. So I'm going ahead and snagging and solidifying my 5th receiver on my roster so that I don't have to really worry about receiver from here on out. I'm going to probably snag someone. I talked about Tyler Boyd. There's Corey Davis that's still on the board. I think I'm going to go ahead and snag myself some Corey Davis. I do like Tyler Boyd. I like what he has done in his career. I'm just unsure what to expect from him this season because Joe Burrow is really getting his first opportunity to play the entire season with that team. But now he has his buddy Jamar Chase there. And then on top of that, they've got a lot more playmakers. T. Higgins is playing very well. So the question now becomes, and AJ Green is out of the building. So that means most likely they're going to probably have Tyler Boyd as the wide receiver 1, which means for the first time really in his career, outside of the times when AJ Green got hurt towards the end of the season, Tyler Boyd will be going up against number 1 corners for the entire season. So I think I'm going to go with Corey Davis over Tyler Boyd because Corey Davis has been doing that. But the thing is, Corey Davis has an interesting situation. So I'm just going to take a flyer on him. I don't necessarily need him to start. So I'm going to go Corey Davis over Tyler Boyd here. Do you think that's the right move, Parker?
They're so even in my book. I actually have, I think I have Rashad Bateman one spot higher than Corey Davis. I do know that. I don't remember exactly where I have Tyler Boyd in relation to those two. But hey, I think you could be getting the best 2 of those best 3. And look at this run on quarterbacks we're having here, Taylor. I think it was worth your time to wait on tight end. 4 quarterbacks. Wow. It's quite a run. Quite a run. And I almost waited another round, and I would have been stuck with Deshaun Watson, who knows what's going to happen there. So, lots of good strategy happening here, but I am on the clock yet again, and I know exactly where I need to go, and that is a pass catcher. And there's plenty of options here because I like these guys. And Taylor, just because you didn't take him, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
I'm glad one of us got him because I was really going to be sad if no one picked up Tyler Boyd.
And what's crazy is that all 3 of these Bengals receivers, we're not discrediting Tyler Boyd because he's not a good receiver. The other Bengals receivers are just as good or potentially better. But Tyler Boyd has been that, even though it's only been, half a season for Joe Burrow, he was that consistent face that Joe Burrow liked last year. And so I think if Joe Burrow starts to get in trouble, I think he's going to go to Tyler Boyd maybe first. I can't guarantee that.
Over Jamar Chase, who he played the college seasons with.
Well, hear me out. I think Tyler Boyd will run the safer routes, the more underneath stuff that Burrow may be able to get the ball to. Because Jamar Chase can stretch the field. Jamar Chase can do it all. And I think that's what we're going to see Tyler Boyd. I'm going to go with Boyd here. And I don't think it's crazy that we could think of all three of these receivers having over 1,000 yards.
2 tight ends off the board here.
Oh,
has me sweating.
One team has already taken 2 tight ends, and that is Team 12.
Concerning. Why are they taking 2 tight ends right now?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense because they have Travis Kelce. That's oof. Well, I wish you the best of luck, my friend.
Ooh, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, toes are curling. All right, so I'm back here. I might take a tight end. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. One's good enough for me. But I need another running back, or I could go running back. I could go receiver. Those are pretty much the only 2 positions I would want to go. And really, none of these running backs are making me, wanting to take them. I have my eye set on a couple of guys later. But here we are in the 10th round now? Yeah. 10th round. And the 10th round receivers are an interesting crew. And it's always the same few guys, especially Michael Pittman, Antonio Brown, and Mike Williams. Now, if I go...
I know you like Mike Williams.
I love Mike Williams. But here's the thing. I have Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen already. But I also have Tom Brady and Mike Evans already. The thing with Mike Williams is that his production is so skewed because this guy, his catch average is bonkers. 15 plus last season, 20 plus yards per catch the season before. So basically this guy is a throw it up and pray that he comes out with the ball. And he usually does. But his target numbers and reception numbers are incredibly low. He's never had a season above 50 receptions. Now, I think he can break that this season. And I don't know if I want to take a chance on him or a guy that I know could get some production in Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Brown's still a good receiver. And Taylor, I know you're probably rolling your eyes over there. This is not me being a Steelers homer again, but
all I'm saying is this is not being a Steelers homer as he drafts 2 Steelers and possibly going to be a 3rd ex-Steeler.
Well, he would be, yeah. Well, anyways, I don't know how much to read into his 8 games last year because he was on pace for over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. He played a full 16, which is amazing. And like I said, I expect them to pass more. But one guy that I also really like is Michael Pittman Jr.
Ooh.
And I've been sort of saving this for a while. And now last year, he just got the short end of the stick, I'm surprised they brought T.Y. Hilton back. He played 13 games, so he missed a couple of games due to injury. But 500 yards, he averaged about 12.5 yards per catch, which is interesting. 1 touchdown, though. I think he's primed for
that
a breakout.
offense also was not that great in terms of being able to score the football. So really outside of throwing the football, that is. Whereas this season,
Right.
I think with Carson Wentz, they've got a better chance than they did last year to throw the football.
I agree, but the thing is, they brought back T.Y. Hilton and Zach Pascal, and Paris Campbell is back from injury again. But they did spend the 34th overall pick on Pittman last year, and he has upside every time he plays. But I think for was this my fourth receiver? Fifth receiver? Fourth receiver.
Fourth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need a little bit of consistency, and I'm going to go with Antonio Brown.
All right. Interesting pickup there. You're going all in on that Bucks offense, which is surprising. Oh, thank goodness. Oh my gosh.
You got lucky.
Whew, I was
You got
worried.
lucky.
So the 3 tight ends that I was looking at before last pick, where I said I think that one of them will be available at least. The 3 were Robert Tonyan. Obviously, we love him. I've actually come around to Irv Smith recently, not because I'm a Vikings fan, but I think that he's got a decent opportunity because Kirk Cousins loves his tight ends, and Irv Smith really started to come on towards the latter half of last season. And then on top of that, I remembered the fact that Irv Smith is really not going to have much competition out there. And they drafted a rookie tight end, but he's not going to have much of an impact. And they have Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin, a lot of people, Vikings fans will know, he's just a dude. All right. He's just a dude. He's not much more than a dude. All right. So you don't have to worry about him. I know a lot of other people are like, well, Tyler Conklin had more fantasy points or whatever than, Irv Smith did, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was just because Tyler Conklin was able to get on the field a little bit due to the fact that they ran so much heavy tight ends in the system. So I think that Irv Smith's going to get his share this season because they don't have Kyler Rudolph anymore. He's out of the building. It is Irv Smith's job to lose. And then on top of that, I also obviously, we love ourselves some Logan Thomas here.
We do
love what he did last season. I don't think he's going to have the same amount of targets as he did last year, but I think he has an opportunity to score a few more touchdowns, believe it or not. We saw what Mike Gesicki did when Fitzmagic was actually on the field. I would go back to the game against the Raiders, that great game. Okay.
Best game I've ever watched.
Who did Fitz rely on at the end of the day when it was really tough situations? Outside of Myles Gaskin, he relied on Mike Gesicki to make some big plays. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the tight end who he now has and Logan Thomas.
Yeah, that's a great pickup because look at the run on tight ends that just happened. You weren't going to be able to get him in the next round.
And then looking at the way my team is set up, obviously I got a lot of receivers. I got my quarterback, got my tight end. I think I need to get my 4th running back here. All right, because I don't really have anything right now that's jumping out at me, but there is one guy that I really do believe in. All right, and he's someone that I think can make a big impact and will end up surprising some people. And I think he's going to have an opportunity to lead his team not only in rushing, but also possibly have 1,000 yards for the 2nd or 3rd time in his career, mind you. That would be Philip Lindsay. You know where I'm going with this.
I knew right away, and I had no ifs, ands, or buts about it. However,
I love Philip Lindsay because I love his opportunity, and I think that Houston is probably going to, when push comes to shove, they're going to probably rely on him more than David Johnson, just because they think they plan on probably keeping Philip Lindsay around in the building versus David Johnson. They're probably going to be getting rid of shortly here, whether it be this season or the next. I really do believe that Philip Lindsay could be the feature back for that offense for a couple seasons.
Yep, I definitely agree. So here we are at the 11th round, and I need another running back. And there's one guy who I get pretty much in this 11th or 12th round every time, and he is I hate handcuffs. I really don't like handcuffs in fantasy football, but he's my favorite one. And the trick is don't draft your team's handcuffed. So that means like if I had Austin Eckler, I wouldn't draft Austin Eckler's backup. I would draft somebody else's backup. So Taylor, I'm going to draft Antonio Gibson's backup in J.D. McKissic here because J.D. McKissic will still get passing game work. Fitzmagic will throw the ball a ton this season. I have no reservations about that. And McKissic was effective last year. So I'm going to go with my guy at running back here, J.D. McKissic. It's going to be a little bit of a reach in terms of ADP, but I don't care. So, all right. We are in the 12th round now. And
I'm
I
thoroughly shocked that team. Oh, just kidding. I thought that Matt Ryan was their starting quarterback.
no. Well, this brings up an interesting situation here because I think the board's open. I can go pretty much wherever I want. Maybe I finish receiver here, but I
Well,
think I'm gonna
I love
wait.
myself some Marvin Jones. Everyone, for those that don't understand, Marvin Jones is one of the most consistent receivers out there over the last few seasons. It doesn't matter who's throwing the football, doesn't matter what team he's on. Even when he was on the Bengals, he was a consistent fantasy
Mhm.
scorer and a consistent option. And he's a great red zone target. And now that he's got one of the better quarterbacks that he's had in his career, I think he's going to have even more opportunities.
Yep. So this 12th round, I sort of have synced up with the Washington football team defense, and I'm fine to take them early because if you're in a defense league, a league that plays the defense and special teams units, I'm a full believer in grabbing one of the top defenses around before other people start grabbing them. Maybe earlier. However, the Washington football team only getting better, and I'm not afraid to take him here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my defense and the Washington football team here in the 12th round.
All right. Looking at the situation now that I'm stuck at, I have filled out my receiver core. I got 5 receivers. I have 4 running backs, and I have a tight end and a quarterback. So that now becomes a situation where I don't necessarily need anything. I just am filling out my bench at this point, or grabbing special teams and kickers. Special teams and kickers? Excuse me, special teams and defenses at this point.
I think you meant special teams and superheroes.
Yes.
Kickers are people too.
Exactly. So looking at the people that are on the board right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get myself a defense because there seems to be a rule here where defenses always go before kickers. So at the end of the day, even though kickers are better, in my opinion.
Yep,
all right,
absolutely.
So, I mean, just look at the fact that the top kicker last season outscored any defense. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So looking at the defenses though that are on the board, they currently have the Buccaneers defense as the highest ranked defense, which I do think that they're going to have a nice season this year because they didn't really lose any pieces at all. Then they're just going to have
division is garbage.
Yeah, the division is getting worse. Drew Brees is now gone, so that's one less person they have to worry about. Michael Thomas is out for the beginning of the season. And honestly, the whole Saints offense is not looking too great at this point. And the rest of that division is kind of up in the air. So the question becomes, who do you want over the Buccaneers defense? Is there anybody? And for me personally, I don't think there's much of a decision. The Colts had a great year last year in terms of their scoring ability on defense, but I don't know if they can repeat that type of situation. That's why I'm going to go.
I don't think they can.
And that's why I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here as the top defense outside of the football team for me.
Yeah, I have them respectively 1 and 2, football team and then Bucs in my rankings. And I think that's the way they should go at the boards here. But Taylor, you're back on the clock after your short turn here.
Yeah, I'm looking here and I'm trying to decide what do I want to do. What I could go and take a 6th receiver, pretty much solidifying that I will not be taking any more receivers at this point. Or I could go ahead and get a running back, and once again solidifying that I'm not going to take another running back either. Or I could go ahead and take a backup at a position like quarterback or tight end, and that's a viable option here. There are a couple of guys that could put up some points and have opportunities as well. But at the end of the day, I think that there's one move. There's one move that makes a lot of sense. You know what that is, Parker?
You know what? I'm going to have to go look. Oh, you're going to draft Fitzmagic, aren't you?
That's a good guess. And I thought about it. I really did.
Well, other than that, I have no idea. So enlighten me.
Just because I'm going to prove to everybody that I am such a big believer in this and that they should never, ever, ever, ever leave fantasy football, I'm drafting myself a gosh damn kicker. All right.
Let's go.
So we're going to get
This
a
is the
kicker
energy
in
that we need.
13th round here. And I'm looking here. There are so many. Okay, you could draft Justin Tucker as the number one kicker.
He's never finished as a kicker one. Never finished as a kicker one.
So you don't do that. You could go and see if Younghoe Koo is going to repeat again. Probably not likely. Nope. And
Kickers
then
repeat.
You go and you look at other guys. You got Harrison Butker. He scores quite a bit of points out there, but the Chiefs offense just scores more touchdowns than they do, field goals at this point. And so then you also got to look and figure out, well, who else is available? You got Tyler Bass. You believe in him.
Oh,
and then
I love me some Tyler Bass.
There's someone that I absolutely love, and he's who I'm going to draft because I just love this team. And I'm going to put my support behind this team and behind this kicker who had a phenomenal fantasy season last year, but got overshadowed just because Younghoe Koo had one or two more fantasy points. Jason Sanders.
Yeah, we drafted him in our Scott Fishbowl team, and he is an elite kicker. We're very consistent. And actually, I think you ignited a run out of kickers here.
Yes, I did, and I love myself some kicker action.
You are setting a trend. But here
We're all trendsetters here at Fantasy Football in 5.
Oh, yes. All right, so I need another something, and I don't know what.
Something.
And yes, indeed. It's so tough because I don't really care for the receivers right now, and I don't care for much running back either. So I'm going to do myself a favor and draft the best player in the NFL.
If he was going to be around when I went to draft my next pick, I would have drafted him.
All right. So I grabbed Fitzmagic because obviously I needed to. But Taylor, you said it earlier. Tyler Bass is my guy. And I said it last year. You had your doubts. I said, you watch. Tyler Bass is going to finish as the best rookie kicker. And he did.
Well, there's also like one rookie kicker.
Just shut the fuck up. Nope. Not in my book. No, but Tyler Bass was exceptional last year. And I believe he finished as kicker kicker 4 last year. He started all 16 games. Extra points, only missed 2. He only missed 6 field goals throughout the season, has a strong leg. And this Bills offense could put up tons of points. Don't be afraid to reach for Tyler Bass, a kicker. And this is where I'm going. I love this man. He's my go-to kicker this season. So, Taylor, it's back over to you. You just drafted Jason Sanders. So, where do you go in the 14th round here?
Well, I'm looking here, and honestly, I talked a lot about, maybe getting a backup at quarterback or tight end. And at the end of the day, I think that which of those is probably more viable. I'm going to go ahead and snag myself a backup quarterback right now, just because you never know with Aaron Rodgers' situation. So I'm just going to go ahead and solidify myself somebody just in case he goes. So the question now becomes, who do I want to get at the quarterback position? Because right now the running backs and receivers, like you said, they don't look enticing at all. And that's part of the reason why normally I believe in at least a couple of guys later on, but this season just doesn't seem to be that case. So I'm going to look at the quarterbacks, and now you got guys like Tua, Zach Wilson, Derek Carr, Big Ben, Sam Darnold, a lot of different people that I could go ahead and snag. What are your thoughts on all those guys, and which one do you think is going to be the best one for this upcoming season? For me personally, I don't know what to think of Tua. He's a top guy on the board, but I'm not sure what to expect from him this year.
Yeah, I don't think I trust Tua yet. You got to trust the process. I've been saying that for a while. But Taylor, I know you're going to hate me for this, but I think Daniel Jones has upside this year. I really do. He's got the rushing ability. And yeah, stare at me all you want, but I like Daniel Jones. But the only other guy here I would kind of want to take a chance on is Zach Wilson. I think Wilson has, he's not going to finish better than Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think he will finish too far behind Trevor Lawrence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's got weapons. That's what I like about
and a
Zach
good offensive line.
Wilson. Yeah, a lot better offensive line than they ever had when Sam Darnold was there. That's for sure. And so I think that's probably the route that I'm going to go ahead and go is snag myself a top-notch backup quarterback just in case, and a guy that I can also just plug and play when Aaron Rodgers has his bye week, so I don't have to go searching for a guy. So I'm going to go ahead and snag myself a backup quarterback and Zach Wilson. It's funny that you said that because that's actually where I was going to go. But
well, one of those New York quarterbacks has to turn up. So
yeah, exactly. So now at the turn here, now the question becomes: there's only 2 selections left. Where do I go and what do I do with it? So I'm looking here. I don't like the running backs that are available. The wide receivers are also kind of up in the air. But you know what? I'm looking at tight end, and there's a few guys that are intriguing to say the least. Okay. Chris Herndon, man. No.
God, please no.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that to you people. But at the end of the day, there are a couple of guys that are interesting to me. So I think that Brevin Jordan is someone that's intriguing, but I think you can probably either snag him off of waivers or something because
Easily.
he's someone that hasn't been getting drafted. But if you want to make sure he gets on your team, go ahead and snag him in the last round of your draft. But I'm looking at other guys that are available at tight end to be backups. There, Adam Troutman, a lot of buzz around him recently. Gerald Everett is available, who's going to get an opportunity in Seattle now. Jared Cook as well, the guy who we love ourselves some Jared Cook. All right, and now he's with Justin Herbert out there, your boy.
My boy, Herbie.
So all I'm saying is maybe I get a little bit of piece of that Chargers offense. What do you think is going to happen with Jared Cook this season in that Chargers offense?
He will get his work in the red zone. I think you're going to primarily see Jared Cook on, shorter conversions and in the red zone. You won't see him in between the 20s.
All right, I like that. I like that because it's probably true, especially at this point in his career. Jared Cook has not been a guy that you can necessarily rely on. Ever since probably Drew Brees kind of went down, he hasn't really been the same since then. And so I'm going to go ahead and snag Jared Cook, though, over guys like Adam Troutman and Gerald Everett, because at the end of the day, who is throwing the ball to Mr. Adam Troutman? The guy who hates tight ends, absolutely hates him. And just for some reason, I don't know why, because he's had talented tight ends most of his career. But Jameis Winston, he cannot throw to the tight end position. So I'm going to go ahead and draft the guy who left knowing that Jameis Winston was in town and get Jared Cook here.
Yeah, I think that's a smart pick too. And now I'm staying away from that. Outside of Alvin Kamara, I'm staying away from that Saints offense this year.
Yeah, I am too. I really don't like that Saints offense, and even Michael Thomas. Like I don't like it.
I'll tell you what. I traded away Michael Thomas in a dynasty league I'm in. Let me pull up the trade here because it was my first ever trade that I made. So here's what I received: Adam Thielen, Philip Lindsay, and a 2023 second-round pick. And I sent away Michael Thomas and Alex Madison.
Yeah,
I think I won that trade.
I think you did, because at the end of the day, Adam Thielen's still going to have a couple of good seasons there. Philip Lindsay, like I said, has an opportunity to become the feature back out there in Houston for a couple of seasons to come. Mm-hmm. And then that second-round draft pick can snag you someone who easily can replace Michael Thomas. So
yeah, and the thing is, I think my team, that specific team, can compete right now. So why not? But I have to make a selection here, as I only have 58 minutes to do so.
Only 58? Oh no!
What am I ever going to do? So I need a 5th running back, actually, and this is literally just going to be a shot in the dark. But a guy, Taylor, you're going to shoot me in the face. But I'm going to dip back into that Buccaneers
team.
I
knew you were going to do it.
And
Oh
I'm actually
my.
gonna wait. I'm actually gonna wait because he's so far down on my board. Um, excuse me, and maybe take a backup tight end here. And one of my favorite guys this season is at this point in the draft is actually going to be Cole Kmet because I don't think Andy Dalton's going to be starting the season. I think it's going to be Justin Fields. So I think
Do you
Cole
think he'll
Kmet.
start right away?
See, that's one thing that I'm not so sure about, but I think Jimmy Graham's out the door now. Cole Kmet's the tight end 1 there, and the Bears just shipped away Anthony Miller. That doesn't mean much to me, but maybe it's just another 20 targets that can go to Cole Kmet. So I'm not upset to take a stab at him here. So he's going to be my backup tight end. And then in the final round here, I'm going to go with my final play here in Gio Bernard. Just because what happens if one of those top 2 get hurt, or maybe Fournette gets shipped out to Los Angeles to replace Cam Akers? We'll see. But Gio Bernard rounds out my draft. Taylor, you have your final pick here.
Yeah, and so I'm only going to stick with 4 running backs because I got a good set of running backs at the top there with Kamara, Swift, and Gibson. So I believe in those 3, and then Philip Lindsay as a good backup. So I'm not going to really grab a 5th running back. At this point, it's kind of useless to me. And at wide receiver, I already have a solid set of 5 at receiver, so I could go there. And I already got a backup at quarterback and tight end. Do I go backup kicker? The answer is no. As much as we love kickers, I'm not going to do that.
You can just draft a kicker in every round.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you get that kicker 1. No. I'm going to go ahead and go with a wide receiver here. Believe it or not, I like Gabriel Davis this season. I think he's going to have an interesting season, a possibility to kind of replace Cole Beasley, because Cole Beasley is getting older at this point. And so someone needs to fill in that role as that slot guy. And I think Gabriel Davis can learn a lot from Cole Beasley and probably has already to fill that role. But I'm not going to actually go that route. I'm going to take a stab at someone who, you know what? I was shocked you didn't go this route, Parker.
It's because I know where you're going, and Nico Collins,
Yep,
is my for some reason I can't stop drafting Nico Collins. I can't stop drafting the Texans' freaking offense, for God's sake, because they're so interesting this season. Brevin Jordan, Taylor, you were just talking about him. He could very well end up as a top 3 rookie tight end this year if he just gets the opportunity and capitalizes, because he's got that athletic ability you mentioned a few podcasts ago. Why not Brevin Jordan? And then Nico Collins, he could lead the team in targets. Randall Cobb just got shipped back to Green Bay.
Did he
Why
really?
not?
I guess I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, Brian is trying to make Aaron Rodgers happy out there. So
bring back one of his favorite targets.
Yeah.
While we're at it, why don't we go ahead and get Jordy Nelson out of retirement?
Is Jermichael Finley alive still, or?
Interesting stuff, though. But now, especially now that Randall Cobb is gone, I mean, there's not a whole lot of targets that are going to be taken away from Nico Collins on offense. They got Brandon Cooks, and then what do they got? Kiki QT. I think that he can easily beat out QT to be the number 2 receiver on that team. And
nobody knows about Nico Collins, so use that to your advantage.
And then he also got drafted in the 3rd round, so it's not like he was drafted that high just to sit on their bench and never play. All right, so they're going to give him an opportunity, especially now that they're searching at this point for playmakers for that offense and that Texans team as a whole. So they're probably going to go ahead and give Nico Collins all the opportunity in the world. And I think that if Deshaun Watson plays, that Nico Collins is going to score some fantasy points with Deshaun Watson at the helm.
Yep, I'm drafting Nico Collins every single place I can, late in best ball. I've got him in a couple dynasty leagues. I love the guy. So Taylor, that's pretty much going to wrap it up here. Any final words for this live head-to-head mock draft?
No, I just want to say thank you guys for everyone who was listening during this and also is going to watch this later. And also I want to thank all of those who decided to come out and show some support recently and join our listener league. We have a East and a West Coast league going this year. Parker and I are going to split it up and once we get all that figured out. And then also thank you to those that have showed interest in the Dynasty League. We'll be starting all these drafts within the beginning of August at some point. And then also our rankings will be coming out here soon, probably at about the same time that we start all these drafts. We're going to start up doing our rankings. As you guys know, we normally release a buttload of podcasts very quickly for those.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead and do that probably within the next week or two, and then have that released by the beginning week or two of August so that you guys have those for the upcoming season. And then I'm just excited for football this year. It's coming close very soon.
All right, Taylor. So once again, this was Fantasy Football in 5. Thank you for joining us on YouTube this time. Whenever we don't do a podcast, we're going to hop on YouTube because I know you guys want to see our faces because we're both beautiful, handsome men. I think this is the first time I busted out the Fantasy Football in 5, the unofficial, custom-made bucket hat. Taylor's repping our merch, which you can find on Redbubble. Just search Fantasy Football in 5. But you need to go follow us on Twitter right now. Our handle is at Fantasy Football in 5. That's number 5 at the end of the handle. And we can link some stuff in the description here in case you get lost along the way. So once again, for Taylor Knowlton, I am Parker Neal, and we thank you for tuning us. Thank you for tuning us. No, we thank you for tuning in to us. That's what I was looking for on YouTube today. So happy drafting to you, and we'll see you next time.